A North Korean nuclear attack? That's what we'll talk about today. There is an increasing possibility of a serious war in Korea between the North and the South. And unlike the last Korean War in 1949 to 52, where the North Koreans ran over the South Koreans and almost threw them off the peninsula, and it was only the last-ditch stand of the American troops at the lower, the southern quadrant, that we were able to hold Korea and then push them back. Unlike that, I was recently talking to the former commander of the American forces in Korea, and he said it would be no contest. The South Koreans would wipe out the North Koreans easily. He said this is a modern, developed, well-equipped army against a bunch of really starving peasants who are not equipped for modern warfare. The problem is that. The problem is that they might then go nuclear, because the only real power North Korea has is nuclear weapons. And it's easy to see how North Korea in the next few weeks might make good on their bellicose threats and do something like sink a South Korean ship, which they did last year, or shell a Korean island, which they did the year before. And the government now in South Korea is a very hawkish government. The president is the daughter of South Korea's greatest general. And it's very possible that their reaction will be a multiple of the provocation. And that could force the very insecure and young North Korean dictator into a really aggressive response, which could lead to a war. Now, with that in mind, President Obama has increased the number of missile interceptors in California and on the West Coast from 30 to 45. And that's an important measure to try to stop North Korea from hitting the United States. North Korea has a missile and has tested a missile which probably could hit the United States. And they have nuclear warheads they could put on them. The problem is that those missile interceptors have a terrible track record. They were only about 50% accurate. About half the time they missed their target. So that's a hell of a thing to rely upon when the fate of the West Coast hangs in the balance. Now, sea-based interceptors are much more likely to be effective. But the real thing is air interceptors, space-based weapons, which are almost infallible. And the reason is that because they're in space, they can detect the minute a missile is launched. And when it's in that slow rising phase, not going fast at all, it can usually be killed with a laser. The problem is the United States not only hasn't deployed any of these weapons, although we could, we're now negotiating with the Europeans and the United Nations to ban all weapons in outer space, which is just wonderful. But when you're dealing with countries like Iran and North Korea, you need those interceptors. Now, Star Wars got a bad name in the Reagan administration because no interceptor system could possibly guarantee that if the Soviets fired 12,000 warheads at us, that we would be able to knock them all down. It couldn't possibly do that. But when you have 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or 15 missiles coming from North Korea or from Iran, you pretty well can guarantee that you're going to knock them all down if you have a space-based interceptor or a sea-based interceptor closer to the Korean shore. But the land-based interceptors Obama's deploying in California and on the West Coast have a very bad track record, and it's really a pathetic response. This is an instance in which Obama's failure to keep our defenses strong really is endangering us. And we've got to get busy and deploy space-based missiles. We can't always hope that we can stop countries from going nuclear, but we can, once they go nuclear, stop them from an attack on their fellow countries. Not a terrorist attack, but a military attack. Thanks for watching.